Éviter toute escalade au Proche-Orient. C'est l'appel lancé vendredi par le président du Conseil européen Charles Michel lors d'une interview exclusive à Euronews après l'attaque attribuée à Israël contre l'Iran. Le responsable européen espère que cette opération sera la dernière.
It is very important to avoid any further escalation. We condemn Iran for this attack against Israel a few days ago, but now it is very important to work with the countries in the region to try to provide more stability. And for that, it is very important that there is a ceasefire in Gaza. It is very important that the hostages are released and that there is more humanitarian access.
Both the United States and the EU asked Israel not to respond, and yet Israel has ignored that. Is that some sort of failure of diplomacy?
What will be important, these are the next days. And it's very important to observe in the next days if indeed it's possible to come back to a situation with more stability. Iran is a threat for the region, and the decision made by Iran to attack Israel is unprecedented. Iran is isolated, and it's very important that Iran is isolated, and that's why we've decided to put in place sanctions against Iran, and it's also very important to end the crisis in Gaza as soon as possible, and that's why we call on Israel to exercise restraint on the one hand, but also to put in place a ceasefire and not to enter into Rafah.
Because Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Israeli securities minister, tweeted today something essentially saying that the attack was, minor. It's clear that there are members of the Israeli cabinet who would like to see Israel go much further. He also tweeted that we should end the principle of proportionality when it comes to Israel's enemies. So are you fearful that Israel has not finished the job?
There is a political debate, I suppose, within the government in Israel. This is a coalition, and they have discussions, and they are making choices. But this is our responsibility, because we are friends of Israel, together with the United States, to give advice and to tell them what we think.
What do you see is going to happen over the next few days?
I sincerely hope that what happened last night, this is the end of that story, and I hope that we can focus on the situation in Gaza.
And you mentioned Gaza a few times there. Antonio Guterres is saying that Gaza is essentially a hellscape. There are children having their arms and legs amputated with no anaesthetic. We've seen women having C-sections with no anaesthetic, children screaming in hospitals of starvation, and yet no condemnation for what's happening to those innocent civilians in Gaza from the EU.
On the EU side, you are extremely clear and extremely vocal. And I want to repeat, we do not accept double standards. And each civilian life matters. And that's why we are calling on the Israeli government to put in place this ceasefire as soon as possible and to allow the humanitarian access. And there is a very serious situation with famine, with huge difficulties for the children, for the civilian people. And this is not acceptable.